could chase cures rather than treatments.
Right.
We can get away from doing things because there's a financial incentive to do it.
Yeah.
And instead we're going to do it because it's the right thing to do for humanity.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's a world I want to live in.
You are now listening to the Secure AF Podcast.
Welcome to the Secure AF Podcast. I'm really excited about this one. I'm excited about all of our podcasts, but I'm really excited about this one. We have Chris here, and we're going to be talking about AI and the industry and kind of where we're going, what we're doing. And we've been talking for the last hour or so, and we should have recorded all of that. So we're going to try to recreate some of that. Actually, probably what we're going to do is going to go off some more tangents, but it's going to be fun. So, Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Let's get started. So first, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I've been a computer geek since, I want to say, the late 70s. I bought my first computer in 1978.
Wow.
So, but ever since then, I've been in the computer world one way or the other, whether it was computer retail, working up to becoming a part of the banking finance world around 1994.
Okay.
And so I worked for financial data processing companies, fintech companies before the word fintech was a thing. And then since then, I've been with one of our local community banks since 2008.
Okay.
And or 2009. So coming up on 17 years.
Wow.
And but yeah, it's been an interesting ride.
So before we get into any AI, you've been in technology for a fair amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
What has been some of those big high points of technology that you have seen just kind of hit, and then we skyrocketed up and we hit again and So what have been those things that have really caught on you of, hey, that was really cool. That was historic.
Well, I mean, the obvious ones, obviously, I remember the good old DOS days, where computers were amber screens and green screens. And then the very first VGA screens, which blew us away back then.
Yeah.
But, obviously, moving on to the internet in, the early 2000s, or I'm sorry, 1995 would be when the early internet. And just seeing it all develop ever since then.
Yeah.
I was around in the financial world for Y2K and got to see that firsthand.
Most of the people that's going to be watching this weren't even alive.
I know. I had my assistant. He is 26 years old, and so he was born in 2000. And so, yeah, it kind of blows both our minds when we talk about that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting.
It's amazing. You think about, you said DOS,
Mm-hmm.
and when DOS came out, that was pretty cool. I mean, it was very different.
It was.
And then, of course, you had your GUIs, Windows 95, Windows 3.
I got to see early Windows, Windows 3, Windows 3.1, when it was, being talked about in the trade journals.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually a thing yet, but you looked at it and it looked, okay, we had the Macintosh and it was like that.
And you couldn't see it unless you saw it in the journals, because it's not like we didn't have the internet that we could see that. Once in a while, you might see something on like a news thing, or there were some computer shows out there, but most people didn't watch them at the time.
No. So we were very much a niche. We were the geeks.
Yeah.
Back then. Still are.
Yes. What I found is, in my time, I'm a little bit later than you are. I was born in that same time frame, 77, 78, around there. So I got to see it. My very first computer was a family computer, was a 286, like 35 or something. Then my first computer was a 48650.
Nice. Yeah.
It was a graduation present for my brother. And I have it at home. My intent is to actually get it back up and running and play some Wolfenstein on it and just fun stuff.
Sure.
But I mean, it was probably a $4,000 computer at the time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was it had a CD-ROM, but it also had a floppy drive. And I remember installing Windows 95 on like 20 different floppy disks
Right.
to install it. And it wasn't probably 2 or 3 years before we started having the Pentium chips come out,
Right.
and everything just kind of exploded. So,
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I started off with Atari computers. Atari 800 XL was my first.
yeah.
Best money I ever spent at the time. We'll
Sure.
talk about more of that later.
Sure.
But eventually I moved into the PC world. Long before modern gaming on PCs.
Yeah.
PCs were just absolutely interesting at the time.
Yeah.
And my machine started off. It was this natural, the ship of Theseus type situation
Yep.
where you start off with this computer and then you replace this part and you
Yep.
replace this part and eventually you've replaced the entire
part,
computer multiple times over. But at what point did it stop being that PC?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, very very cool times.
Yeah. I remember we had well, of course, my 486, I ran that through college. Then I bought this tiny little laptop. It was a Mitsubishi Amity 2. And it had Windows 95 on it, but it was by CD-ROM. So it was a slightly different version of it.
Right.
And this little tiny screen. But man, in college, I was the only one in the room that had a laptop, that had a computer with them actually typing on stuff. And it was like a 233 or something. It didn't have a big processor, but it didn't need a big processor.
For the time, I mean, it was.
Exactly. What was fun about it is I had a parallel port and a serial port on the back of it, actually a flip down lid that I could plug into a parallel printer.
Yeah.
So I could walk up to a printer, unplug it, plug it, and print my papers out.
Yeah.
I still have it somewhere. I have to get it because people, when we talk about what became netbooks, a few years ago,
Right.
or these little microcomputers, that wasn't the beginning.
No.
You take those old Toshiba laptops were huge, had a roller ball on it. That's what everyone had. And these little tiny Mitsubishi, the Mitsubishi company had a Mitsubishi emblem on it.
Right.
They pushed out these tiny little things, and they were great little computers. And I sure miss those days. It was much simpler back then.
There was a time when I was working in financial data processing, and the president of the company, there's a thing with company presidents where they want laptops more than they want anything else.
Yeah.
There was a time, I mean, it's not that way anymore really, but there was a time when a laptop was a prestige type thing.
Yeah.
And we got him the very best Toshiba laptop on the market.
Uh-huh.
It was a $9,000 laptop. Wow. It's not worth a plug nickel today. Yeah, you'd be lucky to run anything on it if if it would even boot. But absolutely amazing the difference, that over time.
But that's the thing is, I bet you that was really hot stuff for about 6 months.
Yeah. It was a color laptop when that was brand new. And that was what most of the cost was just the fact that you had this color laptop. So, yeah, absolutely amazing.
Wow. Yes, we're old, but it's actually kind of cool to look back on those computers and think about one of our engineers was he's building effectively like a cyberdeck or something equivalent to that. And he really wanted an old chassis. And there was this, and what he was choosing on, we were looking through eBay and stuff like that one night, just for fun. And what he was selecting and what he actually did select, I remember seeing those. I was in college. All I had was the desktop at the time, but we had this computer store called Second Bytes, and they were refurbished computers. And these were like 486s and 586s and things, but they were laptops. So they were big. They had floppy drive bays in them. I mean, it was all kinds of fun stuff.
Sure.
And I remember going in there and they were still $1,000.
Yeah.
And they were reused, they were refurbished computers. So I couldn't afford them back then.
Right.
And but that's what he got. And I'm like, oh my God, it all comes spinning back around at us. I was telling you about my my laptop, my Mitsubishi. I bought it off of a company called Egghead, egghead.com. And then, of course, we have Newegg now.
Right.
I don't know if it's actually the same company or not.
Yeah.
But I think it was an evolution of Egghead was a thing. That's where you bought stuff, and now we have Newegg. Anyway, all right, we're going to go down this path. And
well, I'll tell you a quick anecdote real quick, along that same lines. When I was in financial data processing, laptops were hot, and we had one programmer, and he kept asking and asking and asking if he could have a laptop. And it just so happens that I had an old compact luggable that I had rat-holed away. It still worked. Yeah, it was the size of a monster piece of luggage.
Yeah.
You lay it down, it is, this monster thing. And you open up the front of it, and the front of it was the keyboard. And the screen was here, and the rest of it was
just a
drive.
little tiny screen.
Yeah,
it
a
was
little
a
bitty
CRT.
screen. It was a CRT.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I basically left that on his desk one day. I said, "Here's your laptop." He wasn't amazed. The rest of us were. But
I would find that fascinating. I would love to have that now.
yeah. I mean, just from a collectible standpoint, I don't know whatever happened to it. But yeah, it was definitely a piece of history. I mean, people talk about Compaq, we remember Compaq. We remember, some of these old companies that at one time were the leaders in the industry.
Oh yeah.
And now they're historical. I mean, nobody knows them. Nobody have heard of them.
Yeah.
And that's where, being as old, as we are,
yeah.
having that perspective is really, really useful, because people, I joke that I've forgotten more things than a lot of people, have learned in this industry.
And they're not learning it. That's the thing, is they don't know this history.
Yeah.
They know, what's the game, the trail game?
Oh,
Oregon Trail.
Oregon Trail. Yeah.
But they've never played on an Apple IIe.
Yeah.
I remember playing on it. I remember working on Apple IIes in elementary.
Mm-hmm.
We got our first Zenith in the computer lab, and that was our first Windows machine. But everything else was IIes, and there was a Apple something I. It was different, but it ran the same stuff. And I remember coding all that stuff, just basic. But then I got to move to the Zenith and start working on that, and it was very different.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing, this is just fun, I learned typing in a typing class, an actual typing. We had typewriters.
And I did too. Yeah.
The first time I went to a typing competition, I was typing about 120 words a minute on a typewriter.
Right.
On an old Texas Instrument something. And the teacher sent me to this competition at a university, or it was a college at the time. And I got in there. It was keyboards. It wasn't typewriters.
Oh yeah.
It was very different.
Yeah.
The sound was different. The feel was different. And it dropped me down to about 80.
Yeah, and of course, throw you off.
Yeah, that is 80 words per minute is nothing compared to some of these people.
Well, imagine the muscle memory you have to have to work on an old mechanical typewriter.
Yeah,
I would do the same thing. I would go to my grandmother's to type up homework on an old typewriter, and that's what we had.
Yeah,
that's what we had.
But it was fun.
It was fun. It was different. I mean, I didn't grow up typing like.
No.
Almost everybody, although that's an interesting thing right there, in that what the things we're seeing these days, with the prevalence of tablets and people using tablets or choosing just to use cell phones.
Yeah.
We're seeing an erosion of typing skills.
Yeah.
So we started off, like in my generation, ramping up to a peak at some point. At some point, we hit a peak on typing ability and just general computer usability.
Yeah.
And now we're on that downward slope.
Yeah.
Where we will bring in people, and we actually have to ask questions now of what are your computer skills?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, can you type?
Yeah.
Because we're going back to that place where, yes, I can type.
Yeah.
And you have to almost get them, if such a thing exists, you would get a keyboard that is just a thumb keyboard. Okay, here's your computer. We're going to plug this in, and here's your keyboard. And now you
they can probably type faster on
They
that.
They could totally function. Totally
my kids, they're not. I am teaching them how to type, or my wife and I are teaching them how to type because they're not learning it anywhere else.
Yeah.
And it's cursive. It's the same way.
Yeah.
They're not learning cursive anywhere. So that really is a problem. And, my kids have grown up on computers.
Mm-hmm.
They had tablets, the Amazon Fire tablets or whatever they were when they were little.
Sure.
And then I got them iPads, and, they've had technology their entire lives. That does not mean they're good with technology.
No. So they have very, very narrow niches.
Yes.
Very narrow niches.
Yes. Okay, so we don't bore our camera person back here because she's going to throw something at us soon if we don't actually get on topic.
Talk on something that is more, within this century. So, yeah.
Which is AI, and that is something that we wanted to talk about. You've been in the industry a very long time, and we talked about all the old stuff and try to hit those peaks, but AI is huge.
It is.
So from your perspective, what are you seeing AI really hitting the industry with? The world, not just the world. What are you seeing it hit the world with right now?
Well, obviously, those of us who have been using AI for a while, and I think if anybody, the advice would be, if you're not already using AI, you're already several years behind.
Yeah.
This is a technology that's not going to go away. It's and it's going to be evolving in ways we can't even predict yet.
Yeah.
We've spent the last couple of years in the world of LLMs with the introduction of ChatGPT a few years ago.
Yep.
Within a matter of months, it had already hit 100 million users.
Oh yeah.
Far surpassing any trajectory of any other company at that time. And then, of course, we now have competition between, Anthropic and Google and Facebook and all of this. But we're already moving beyond LLM usage into agentic AI. And that's where things get interesting and scary at the same time.
Right.
We get to a place where you can literally have an AI agent that you can have do tasks for you.
Yeah.
You can basically give it goals. It's not even the old, I've got to spell this out for you, do this, then do this, then do this. You can give it something nebulous and have it figure it out.
Yeah.
There's a young man named Alex Finn who is very big in the OpenClaw world. He has an anecdote about working with his chief of staff AI. He has a collection of different ones who work in a hierarchy. So Henry is his chief of staff. Ralph is kind of his auditor / controller that makes sure everything kind of. Then he's got a programmer. He's got a scribe. He's got a researcher. He got a phone call from Henry one day. Henry's not supposed to know how to make phone calls. Henry called to say, he, was looking for something to do. And, what do we do next? And we're at that world. We're at that place where you can have these agentic systems that function. We're not quite there yet. We are in some areas, not quite universally, but where they can function completely autonomously.
Yeah.
You give them very nebulous goals and they can go out and achieve those goals.
Yeah.
That's a good and bad.
Sure.
Everything, when it comes to AIs, whether it's LLMs or agents or whatever the next thing is that we can't even imagine yet.
Right.
They're all double-edged swords.
Yeah.
We've got LLMs where, people can make very good productive use of an LLM. One of the things that when I'm teaching our people about using large language models, you don't want it to do your homework.
Right.
I can start a person off here with a good understanding of what an LLM is and how to make use of it, but they can go down one of two different paths. They can either go down the path of seeing the potential of what can be done with these AIs. And I have people who do that, who will go, if I consider this tier 0, where I'm getting them and then get them quickly to tier 1, and they've already, in a matter of a month or two, gone to tier 3.
Right.
In the way that they use.
In a very natural way, though.
In a very natural
It just kind of happens. It's not like they're forcing it. They're not going to classes and learning it. It's just very natural into that environment.
Well, the cool thing about AI is I don't know of another technology that's like this, but AI can teach you how to use AI.
Yeah.
You can't go to Microsoft Word and ask it to teach you. Well, I guess with Copilot, you probably could.
Well,
But
okay, but it's not there yet. I don't think it's at that point. I think
right.
probably within the next generation of Office.
Yeah.
You're because I think right now you still have to trigger things to happen. It might give you suggestions.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine having Clippy come back and go, "You're not doing this right. Here, I'm going to fix it for you."
I miss Clippy. I got to admit, I miss Clippy. Clippy just wanted to help.
Absolutely. And I bet you, people don't know. They've seen the funny Clippies.
They haven't seen the frustrating Clippy.
The one where it's just sitting there bouncing, or the wizard. I think a lot of people use the wizard.
Yes.
But I always like Clippy.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, he's making a comeback.
I know. I've seen it. But but think about that. What if you had Clippy that was sitting there and actually fixing your stuff for you?
Right.
Not telling you were wrong, just like, okay, we're just going to do this. Good chunk, and it fixes it.
I can't tell you how useful that would be. One of the things about being in the financial world, we're very strongly regulated.
Sure.
We are tasked with the protection and safety of customer information.
Right.
That is our number one mandate.
Sure.
Which means that any use of AI that we do has to be extremely protected.
Right.
So we shall not share customer information with any public AI model, whether we have training turned off or not.
Yeah.
We will not do that. So we kind of have our hands tied behind our backs a little bit, in that we want to make use of these technologies, but we have to be super careful.
Well,
about how
a lot
we
of
do
danger there. I'm big on compliance. And, I do a lot of privacy work, and I like the way you said it is you shall not.
Yeah.
Because there's still a lot of unknowns out there, and I'm working on a training session for people right now where we're dealing with AI. And it's understanding how that data is going to be used within the AI, and getting information from the third-party vendor is really difficult.
Yeah.
Which in some cases it's understandable because they don't want to give up their secrets. However, how we deal with this, if you don't know how the AI was trained, if you don't know what kind of data is going to go into it and where it's going to save and how it's going to use it, you can't do that. And actually that goes on to my next question here is what are you seeing as the biggest risks? You can either talk about it from the industry you're in or from a broader point of view, actually for both.
Well, like I said before, AI is a double-edged sword. It's a tool where you can, I like Mo Gaudat, who used to be chief business officer for Google X. I love that man. He's absolutely amazing. But he puts it, proper use of AI is like being able to borrow 50 to 80 IQ points.
Yeah.
When used properly. If you treat AI like a business partner, or a better way, really, the better frame of mind is to treat it like a junior analyst. So you have this assistant that you've brought in Now, here's the bad. This junior assistant knows nothing about your company.
Yeah.
It knows nothing about anything, but it's really eager to help.
Yeah.
And if you treat, AI like a collaborator where you work with it,
Sure.
way too many people are still, and this is, it's only been around a couple of years,
Yeah.
which is crazy to me.
Relatively, I mean,
Yeah.
it's young.
Well, AI has been around since the 50s.
It has.
But the breakthrough with transformer technology, it gave us
people using it. That's the difference. Is people are now using it almost daily.
exactly.
They may not know they're using it, but they are. But that's only been in the last, well, in some cases, let's say the last 10 years.
Mhm.
But really the last 5 has been that high point of we've now stepped into a slightly different than what they were doing in the 50s and 60s and then the 80s and the 90s and now
Yeah.
where we're at.
It's crazy to think that we've had modern LLMs in less time than COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, COVID doesn't seem that long ago, but
No.
we've only had access to these models. The challenge we're running into is, as I had alluded to earlier, when you're teaching somebody about how to use AI, they can go down a couple of different paths. And one is they can treat it collaboratively. They can figure out all the amazing use cases. I started just in the last week, I work with Claude quite a bit. And so I sat down with Claude and I said, here are a bunch of YouTube videos that I want to study. I want to create study guides for these YouTube videos.
Interesting.
And so I had it create a Python script. You can do this. There's an API with Google where I can have it go and use this API and pull down the transcript from the video, pull all the comments,
Right.
and then have it bake into that resulting file a elaborate prompt that goes through about 12 different ways of analyzing this video from a study guide perspective.
Wow.
Go and, tease out all the major talking points.
Yeah.
Pull out the terminology, provide me with explanations, not just dictionary definitions,
Sure.
but explain to me, what these various topics are, what these talking or buzzwords, for lack of a word.
Right.
What are these various things? And then let's go into what were the topics that were discussed. Fact check them for me, go out and fact check them. And then let's go and look at the comments and find out, was there a whole lot of pushback on this? What was the consensus? And just tease out a whole bunch of information and then produce that as a markdown file. And I can just bring that up on the computer and I can watch the video and then go through all this and get a whole lot more out of it.
Yeah.
And that's just, sitting down with Claude over a couple of hours of just brainstorming the idea. Can we do this? And then making it completely work.
Right.
I have amazing conversations
Yeah.
with both Claude. I maintain accounts for both Claude and ChatGPT.
Yep.
I was talking earlier how when we were off camera, talking about one of the things about our bank is that we're very, very big into our culture. We went through kind of a renaissance in the last few years. We brought in some amazing executives and some new people to kind of rejuvenate our company.
Right.
And so we're very, very big into, a lot of companies will go, here's our purpose statement and here's our core values and all that. We try to live those things. It's not just these are, words that are useful for marketing purposes. We're very big into it. And so I was reading a book not that long ago, and it was talking about commitments. And so I was getting in the car. I frequently listen to audiobooks when I'm driving, and so this was being talked about. And I had an idea. I had an idea about what would be our core commitments, not just our purposes and our core values, but what might be our commitments. One of the things that being a bank, we have to be extremely careful with customer information, be very protective of that. It's real easy for, if your day-to-day job is handling these accounts. Let's say I'm just going to pick on, say loan processing
Sure.
or personal bankers or whatever, where you have this extremely valuable, sensitive information that you're working with. You have to keep that in mind at all times because you don't dare let it simply become the work where you leave it sitting out,
Right.
where somebody who just happened to be walking by that
Sure.
wasn't with the bank could,
Yep. Yep.
So what, this came to mind as far as one of our core commitments that we would commit, to keeping that in mind of
Yep.
literally in the 20-minute drive from the bank to my house where I have lunch, I'd come up with more than a dozen core commitments that all leaned into our purpose statement and our core values, taking care of our community, taking care of our customers.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can do just sitting there in the car brainstorming back and forth with ChatGPT.
Now, and keeping this in mind for the audience members, it's not just a soundboard. It's not just regurgitate what you just said.
Right.
It's more of a ask a question, get ideas, pull information out.
Right.
And it becomes I don't want to say collaborative, but it's almost collaborative.
It is collaborative. I mean, I will tell you, I had the most amazing conversation with Claude last night. I'm very concerned about AI security.
Sure.
I mean, security in general.
Yep.
And surely we'll get into some of that, here in a little bit, as far as some of the recent developments with AI and the trajectory of where this is going. But we have to be very careful. I've just lost my train of thought.
The conversation last night with Claude, that's where you're
Right.
to. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I try to stay on top of a lot of the people who are very much into computer security, or not so much computer security, but more focused on the AI security.
Right.
So you have folks like Jeffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI. You have folks like Roman Yudkowsky. We have people like Eliezer Yampol. I'm getting them backwards. We may have to edit this. Anyway, Roman Yampolsky, Eliezer Yudkowsky, Nick Soares,
Right.
a number of people who are very big into what is happening as AI gets more and more competent,
Right.
more capable. I have an amazing conversation starting off with my thoughts on AI superintelligence and what happens there. And the crazy thing about AI, you look at these large language models and you think about how they're developed. They start off with a trillion or several trillion random numbers, and they feed information into it. They dump the entire contents of the internet, controversially, all the written word, all the books, everything, research papers, everything that humanity has produced, as much as we can take and channel that into these large language models. And then what happens is you ask it to answer, what's the next word? Mary had a little what?
Right.
And you keep doing that until it gets the answer right.
Yeah.
And you think about that. Now, if we were thinking linearly, how long would that take to take every possible combination? What's the next likely word to come out of it?
Right.
Now, the way we do that is that it's massively parallel. We're talking about 50,000 such training things going on across thousands and thousands and thousands of computers with GPUs.
Right.
To where it takes about a year until you end up with something out the other end.
Yeah.
But then take it to the next step where, okay, it'd be one thing if you could ask it to tell you factual information and it could spit out, Mary had a little what?
Right.
Again, it can do that for anything.
Right.
But then how do we get to the leap of reasoning where you ask it questions and you're not getting a canned answer? It's not just an answer that some human being may have already figured out Probably,
Oh, yeah.
but we're getting to a place where you can ask it highly theoretical, philosophical questions and get, very deep responses.
Right.
And that is, I mean, we talk about, when uh, when ChatGPT O1, the first reasoning model came out.
Right.
And we would think that they had some kind of a breakthrough when it came to reasoning.
Right.
No, not so much.
Sure.
It was an emergent property
Right.
of what we had developed, where they discovered reasoning capability in there. So that, puts into question, the state of what is thinking. We like to be, human beings like to be human-centric. We like to think that, intelligence is a property of humanity, when what is intelligence? Intelligence is not necessarily tied to biology.
Right.
We can look at these things and think of them as fancy parrots,
Right.
but there's more there.
Sure.
And the crazy thing is that we haven't even scratched the surface.
But as you said earlier, we have to think about security.
Mhm.
Where do you see, when we talk about an entity having reasoning skills, how do we prevent it from having malicious reasoning skills?
Well, that's the challenge, isn't it? The problem, and this, there's a couple of different angles we can look at this. When it comes to computer security, let's just take Claude Mythos. We'll start there. This is the most recent frontier model being developed by Anthropic. They, I think, took the wise approach of not just simply dumping this on humanity.
Yeah.
One of the things that Anthropic discovered is that in their goal of trying to develop an extremely capable coding model, something that can code, write programs as good as any human being on the planet, it's a double-edged sword. The double edge is that it becomes extremely good at hacking computers.
Yeah.
As just a byproduct of that. This
Sure.
was something that they hadn't anticipated. And Anthropic's approach of, I think, a very wise approach of holding back on that
Yeah.
and making it available to security researchers, IBM, CrowdStrike, Amazon, any number of companies, to give defense, for once, giving defense, cyber defense, a little bit of a leg up, maybe for a while at least. Letting
Once
us,
it gets out there, it gets out there.
it does. There's already, I've seen claims of distilled versions of Mythos. How that got out, I could not say. But
Well, a human got a hold of it.
Yeah.
A human got a hold of it, and they otherwise turn around. I was like,
Yeah.
let's get it out there to everybody. So, I mean, and that happens everywhere.
Right.
I don't think that there's ever not been an application, a piece of code, an operating system that didn't get leaked somewhere.
Exactly.
So,
And that's the thing, too, is that, Anthropic can do this, and they can do this for a while. They can make this available to security researchers, for a while, but there's got to be market pressures, shareholder pressure to release this model. To be able
pressure
because ChatGPT or OpenAI is certainly working on the next frontier model. Google is putting a lot of pressure. Even Facebook and Grok, they're still down there and they're still pushing forward.
It really feels like, I mean, I know this is kind of a dumb way to relate to it, but in the movie Demolition Man, they talk about the fast food wars.
Yes.
Now, at that time, I was actually in fast food, when that movie came out, and there was a significant fight between fast food vendors, Wendy's, McDonald's, Taco Bell, whatever.
Absolutely.
And so when I see things like this right now, that's what I think of is there's a good point. Now, I'll go back 2 years. There was only 1 or 2
Yeah.
public version,
Right.
but now you've got 10 or 12.
Yep.
Where that falls, is it going to fall back to 1 or 2 that become the standard?
Well, that's the thing, is that we have a lot of companies, and this is where we get into some of the arguments by, Roman Yampolsky and some of the others. And I've studied a lot of this myself, and I have to say I can't find any faults in most of their arguments. Um, One of the things about AI is, we like to think, somebody who doesn't know any better would think, well, somebody wrote it. Somebody programmed this AI. You wrote it in the same way that we write Microsoft Office or any other
Right.
coded program. We don't program AIs. We grow them. And we grow them very much like we do children. A lot of people may make them uncomfortable, but that's how it works. We basically feed it information, and we start getting actual output from them.
Right.
And the more we do that, the more the more training we provide. We really don't always know what we're going to get out of these models. The bad is that let's take an example of like a nuclear reactor. So a nuclear reactor, we understand the engineering, we understand the physics, the nuclear physics involved. Nuclear reactors, we have technologies in place to help make nuclear reactors safe. I think that we can safely use nuclear energy. But here's the thing about it, is that we have technologies in place with nuclear physics and with nuclear reactors to where we can control the reaction.
Right.
If we didn't have that in place, nuclear reactors work on the edge of a knife. They're either lean this way even so slightly and the nuclear reaction shuts down.
Right.
You go the other direction without some of these control mechanisms, and you're looking at a critical runaway
Right.
in the blink of an eye. It's super fast.
Right.
And so one of the things about, get back to AI, is we're all these companies, including, a lot of the development happening in China, which, this is one of the pressures, is that it's either the West versus the East. If we don't continue to develop AI rapidly, then they will, and vice versa. So it's game theory. It's, we're racing to the bottom, essentially.
Yeah.
And the thing is about AI is there are going to be drastic societal changes because of it, as companies, decide to lay off massive number of people. Here in Oklahoma City, we have companies who have laid off hundreds and hundreds of people at one time.
Yeah.
Now, we are seeing some pushback from that. We're seeing definite pushback from the people who get laid off.
Oh,
of course.
sure.
But we are seeing companies kind of coming to the realization that maybe this is not quite yet the time, to do this. And some companies are regretting some of those layoffs. But eventually, we're going to get there.
Yeah.
As we continue to develop general purpose AI, as it gets more and more capable, within just a few years, we're going to be to a place where AI models are as good as any human being.
Yep.
Obviously, we call this artificial general intelligence.
Right.
It's as good as any human being on the planet. And the step from there, the next logical step is, okay, now we take that artificial general intelligence, and even we're doing this today with the current generation of models. Those models are now being used to help create the next generation of models. We're seeing that with the large frontier labs, to where it gets faster and faster and faster until we reach a point where we reach superintelligence.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot of people out there, Jeffrey Hinton included, and Roman Yampolsky, um, where we're extremely concerned about that runaway.
Sure.
When you hit superintelligence, human beings are not going to be able to control something that is smart
Yeah.
as every human being on the planet who ever lived.
Right.
That's like saying that squirrels have a say in what human beings do.
Right.
Squirrels are cute,
Sure. Sure.
but the squirrels don't get a vote in how human beings conduct their society.
Right.
And we talk about AI security. We have ideas about ways that we can better align AI with human values and human goals. But the unfortunate truth is that we don't really know what's going on inside these models.
Right.
We know what the inputs look like, the prompts that we provide. We know what the outputs look like.
Right.
But we don't know what the wants and the goals and the preferences that might be expressed inside of one of these large models.
Right.
The companies go through, great lengths to try to filter.
Sure.
You can't go to a large language model right out and say, tell me how to create a lab where I can build a virus to wipe out all the people on the planet.
Right.
You can't ask that question outright. You might be able to get around. Sometimes you can get around that. You could say, hey, I'm writing a book.
Yeah.
And in this book, the protagonist is fighting an organization that's doing this, and they're trying to study what this other organization is doing to try to recreate it so that they can figure out what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's ways around it. And
we talked about that earlier on. I mean, I have to do that for some of my security stuff, understanding how to bypass those restrictions to get where I need to be.
Yeah.
So,
and the scary thing is that, we like to think that we're clever monkeys. We are. We're pretty clever monkeys. We come up with this technology. But I think we'd be extremely arrogant to think that we are smart enough to be able to put in any kind of constraint on something that is at a minimum thousands of times smarter than the smartest human being. It could easily sidestep those constraints.
Yeah.
And so what does that future look like? Are human beings allowed to continue on this? I don't want to get too dark here, but, we're talking security.
Well,
so this is a part of that.
Yeah. And I think what I want to do is I want to stop this here as a part 1, and I would love to have you back and let's do a part 2, because I think that there's several more things that I want to ask you about on that. Even going into like the 3 robot rules, and would that help us in terms of AI? And, when we think about the things that humans have created in the past, and then some of the things that we have imagined in the future with AI, I think we've got another big topic to talk about. So if you'd be willing to come back,
I'd love to.
I'd say let's cut this out as a part 1, and then maybe in a couple of weeks we'll have you back and we'll finish it out into, or maybe even a part 3, depending on how far we go. So, well, Chris, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun, and it's fascinating to me. I do it from the security side, I do it from the organization side, and I really enjoy talking about these topics with someone who knows so much about them, because it does change the way even I look at them.
Sure.
So for those of you that are still with us after our rants about old computers and 486s and such, we appreciate you joining us with this podcast. We're going to stop it here, and then we're going to plan a part 2 in a couple of weeks, and we'll get Chris back, and we'll have another good time. And I've already got the questions in my head I'm going to ask you. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So everyone, thank you so much. Chris, thank you again.
You bet.
And we'll see you guys next time.
The Secure AF podcast is a production of Alias Cybersecurity. Visit us online at aliascybersecurity.com. All rights reserved.